good. Call your next witness, please.
Better we call Arlene Holmes?
Good afternoon. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
My full name is Arlene Rosemary Holmes, Arlene Rosemary Holmes.
Ms. Higgs, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Is James Holmes your son?
Yes, he is.
Have you sat here every day for this trial?
Every day except for 2. I had to go home to San Diego for 2 days. Every other day since April 27th, yes.
Has that been something that's been difficult for you?
It's very difficult and painful and tragic, yes, for everyone.
Have you heard then the testimony of most of the experts that have talked about your son's serious mental illness?
Yes, I have.
Is that something that also has been hard for you to listen to?
Yes, it is.
Before July 20th of 2012, did you know that your son suffered from a serious mental illness?
No, I didn't.
Now, we'll talk about some of this, but you've had some concerns about your son as he's been growing up. Is that right?
That is true.
At the time in his life, the various times in his life that you had some concerns, did you ever think it was some sort of serious mental illness like schizophrenia?
No, I did not.
How can that be?
He was the most responsible person I knew, my own son. He managed his finances, looked after himself completely, went to school every single day without complaint, did all his chores without being told. You tell him once what he needs to do and he did it. He never harmed anyone ever, until July 20th, 2012.
As you sit here today, do you still love your son?
I still love my son. Yes.
Why?
Because I understand he has a serious mental illness, that he didn't ask for that. Schizophrenia chose him. He didn't choose it. And I still love my son. I still do.
I want to talk to you now a little bit about that time in the months before July 20th of 2012, okay?
Okay.
Now, I understand was it your main method of, what was your main method of communication with your son?
Email.
And I said James Holmes. What name do you call him by?
I called him Jimmy until high school, and now I call him Jim.
Why was email the main mode of communication that you had with your son, Jim?
He never really liked talking on the telephone. He did once in a while, and sometimes we'd call him and leave a voicemail, and he'd respond by email.
Was there a time that you had to actually practice with him about talking on the phone?
I did.
Can
He
you
wa-
explain that to the jury?
Yes, he was in middle school, and there were times when he had to communicate by phone. Um, it was before the days when everybody just texted and tweeted and really didn't call each other. There were times when people actually called each other, and so we would have a dry run and practice using the telephone so that he would not get too stressed by having to use the phone.
How old again was he then?
Middle school,
Cool. Okay.
yes.
So when sort of email came about as a primary mode of communication, did he take to that?
Yes,
When he went away to college, is that how you communicated?
yes,
And the same for while he was at graduate school here in Colorado?
yes, email.
Okay. Even when you communicated with him in email, was he verbose? Did he speak a lot, even in the emails?
No, but if you're asking me about the time in Colorado, it got shorter and shorter in
Okay.
his emails.
When did you notice that it was getting shorter and shorter?
Probably May, June.
Was that alarming to you or concerning to you in some way?
I was concerned because when he called me on Mother's Day 2012, he said, I'm having trouble in school. I'm having trouble with presentations. And I kept doing what I thought was right, was to encourage him and to remind him that he did well in presentations back in high school era. And so I just kept telling him, just keep trying, but excuse me, I didn't realize that his loudest cry for help was his silence.
Somewhere in that period of time, did you get a phone call from a Dr. Fenton?
I got a phone call from Dr. Fenton on June 11th, 2012.
And did she express to you some concern that she had about your son?
Yes, she said that she saw him for social anxiety and that he had come to her for this problem. But initially, the very first thing she said was, did you know that he was going to quit school or had quit school? And I said I suspected it because he said he was just struggling. It wasn't fitting with his personality to do these presentations.
Mm-hmm. Did she ever tell you she had concerns because he had expressed homicidal ideation?
No, never.
Do you wish she had?
Of course I do. Of course. We wouldn't be sitting here if she had told me that.
Would you have been out here the next day?
I would have been crawling on all fours to get to him. He's never said that he wanted to kill people. She didn't tell me. She didn't tell me. She didn't tell me. She didn't say that she thought he might be psychotic.
Your Honor, asked and answered.
Sustained. Wait till the next question, please. Next question.
Did she tell you he thought he might be psychotic?
She did not.
Did she tell you that, did she leave you with the impression that it was okay for you to tell your son that she had talked to you?
I said, did he give you permission to call us? And she said, no, he doesn't want to worry you. And I said, we can call him and not mention that you called. And she said, that would be good.
Did she tell you that he had quit counseling?
No.
Did you have some relief in this idea that you thought he was still in counseling with her?
Yes, I was reassured by her phone call. She said he's coming for help, and that at the end of the month he wouldn't be a student anymore, so his student insurance didn't cover it. And I said, we work, we have money, we can pay for it. And she said that would be fine.
Did you continue to communicate with your son after that? Did you communicate anything to him about that conversation?
No, we called him as soon as my husband got home. Dr. Fenton called about 4 o'clock California time. And so my husband got home from work at 5, and we called him and left a voicemail, and he didn't call. So we emailed, and he said, it's true, I've quit school, it just wasn't a good fit. But we didn't tell him that we talked to Dr. Fenton.
Did you ever communicate again with Dr. Fenton?
I tried. She said, call me any time, and gave me her cell phone. And we called her, but she did not call back.
What did you ask her to call you back?
Yes.
Okay. You left her a message?
Yes, a voicemail.
And you never heard from her again?
Right.
Do you recall when it was that you left that voicemail?
Well, she first called June 18th, and then we went to Monterey on the weekend, so the following Monday would have been, she called June 11th to me. So we went to Monterey, so the following Monday would have been June 18th. So it was about June 20th, 2012.
Okay. There has been a lot of talk by the prosecution about the continued emails that you and communication you had with your son in May, June, and July.
Yes.
And that he never communicated to you what he was doing at that point in time. I want to talk to you about sort of the nature of his communication with you historically. You do recall that he communicated initially with you it would have been the fall of 2011 about his girlfriend?
Yes.
And you had to actually ask him to let you know what her name was?
Yes.
Okay. And you also communicated with him throughout the year with regard to various sundry things, what you were doing, recommending a book, recommending a TV series, things like that. Is that about fair?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you recall that he did communicate with you and your husband in February and March of 2012 about his breakup with his girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay. And he initially said that it's not been the best of times, but he also wrote back later to you and told you that they were kind of seeing each other again, but...
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Sustained.
Do you recall that email?
Yes, and I don't know if it was in the email or on the phone, he said it's a little confusing because usually when I break up, it's for good. And so I don't, this was I, meaning James, I don't know what to make of it. That's not verbatim.
Right. Did he also let you know that it was a courteous breakup?
He used the word courteous, yes.
And he let you know that one of the things that he did he let you know one of the things that he did in response to that was kind of do his usual complete disassociation?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Did he let you know that he did his usual complete disassociation or not?
He said that's usual for him, so this was different with Gargi to want to continue.
Okay. Historically in his life, did he withdraw to himself when he was stressed or when he was sad?
Yes.
Did you see that with him even as a young boy?
Yes.
Now you said that the emails over this year continued to get shorter and shorter. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a phone call that you had with them on July 4th,
Okay.
and that was 2012.
Okay.
Can you tell the jury about that phone call?
My husband and I both talked to him. We were on each phone to talk to Jim, and we wanted to know how things were going since he wasn't in school anymore. And if he would be all right financially, and that we had sent some money to make sure he was all right financially. We knew that he has his whole life been frugal and saved and thought before every purchase, and he'd send us his budget for the school year in advance of the school year, right down to pennies. And so we wanted to know, if not having his grant anymore, if he would be okay for money, and asked what he was doing during the day, if he was, we encouraged him to apply for a job at the school since he lived right across the street from the school. It couldn't be part of his graduate program anymore, but maybe there was a job at the school.
What was your biggest concern at that point in time for him?
That he was that he was not sitting alone playing video games.
Were you concerned that he might be depressed?
I was concerned, yes. If you've lost your girlfriend and your job and your plan as far as grad school, yes.
Were you in any way ever concerned that he would act violently?
Never. I was totally shocked that he used a gun. We never had guns in the house. We never were hunters or target shooters. When I heard, I thought, how does he even know how to use a gun?
In that phone call, did he ask you questions about your daughter, Chris?
A lot.
Okay. Did he usually ask about Chris when you spoke to him on the phone?
He had just talked to me on Mother's Day, and he asked about Chris then, and he asked if he could speak to her because she was with us when he called. And he was talking to her about school and asking how her first year of college had been. And so they spent some time on the phone together. That would be Mother's Day, May 2012.
Okay. And then he asked about her again on July 4th?
Quite a bit of that conversation was about her. He wanted to know why she hadn't passed all her classes, and she wasn't with us at the time we called. She was with her friends, but he said, please tell her that 5 classes is too many. She shouldn't have taken so much, and that it's too hard in college to do that much.
Was there anything about him during that conversation that was different to you?
It lasted a long time, and usually he's either quick on the phone or email, and he must have talked to us for a good half hour. That's unusual.
Did he seem sad to you? Or did he seem happy? What was his expression, do you know?
No, neither.
Okay.
Neither, just talking.
Was it an alarming phone call for you?
In the sense that I didn't know what was going to happen to him next. I didn't get that sense from his phone call that he had a job yet. And his tone of voice was not alarming.
Okay.
No.
After that phone call, did you still plan on coming out to Colorado?
Yes, even more so, actually.
Okay. Was it, in your mind at that point, was it extremely urgent or not?
No. You mean because of that phone call?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about anything that would have made it urgent.
I want to back up a little bit. He had told you a couple times throughout the school year that maybe this program wouldn't be a good fit, that he was struggling with his presentations.
Yes.
And I know you talked just a moment ago about trying to be encouraging. Did you also let him know that you would support him no matter what he would do?
Yes. In fact, many times through his adolescence, I tried to check in and say, are you sure you still want neuroscience? Because he decided at 14 and never changed his mind. And I said, think it over. People explore options, and whatever you choose should be okay.
Did you ever put any sort of pressure on him that he had to go get some sort of degree, a master's or a PhD?
I did not.
Did you always let both your children know that no matter what they did, you would be there for them?
I did.
And I know you did that with your daughter, Chris, as well, with her music?
I did, yes. I was worried about that choice because it's not so easy to get a job if you choose to be a musician. But I told her we would be supportive of her choice.
Is that something that's important to you as a parent?
Yes.
Let's back up a little bit further to the family holiday you had in December of 2011, okay?
Okay.
How long was that holiday for?
The actual time we went away?
Yeah, the actual time that your son was home was with you.
Okay. I need to think a second. I think he came home from Denver about the middle of the week, so maybe 10 days.
Okay. How did he seem when he came home?
He was ill. He had swelling on each side of his neck. He was tired all the time, and he wouldn't eat. And I asked him, well, he was not feeling well.
Would he kind of sit at the table and stare at his food?
Yeah, he wanted to get up and lie down, and ever since he was born, he's been a chow hound, so I was worried if he didn't eat.
Okay. Eventually, at some point during that vacation, did you and your husband make sure he saw a doctor?
Yes, my husband went with him to Kaiser.
Okay. Now, despite the fact that he came home and seemed very ill, did you all still do a trip to Arizona?
We did. He slept in the car, and we went to Arizona, and we stayed in a hotel because my brother had cancer, and we didn't know if Jim would ever see him again. So we just let the kids sleep, and Jim and Chris he was better after a lot of sleep. They went on a hot air balloon ride together in Arizona.
Did they also stay in the same hotel room together?
They did.
Did they do any other activities together?
Went to lunch.
Okay. And you all hung out together as a family?
Yes.
Chris ever complain about having to hang out with her brother?
Not then. By the time they were older, they were over it. Yeah. When they were younger, they did good when they were little. Then they had a time when they got tired of each other, and then they were good again.
So they appeared to have fun with each other on that trip?
They did. We played apples to apples with my brother. That's our usual game.
Okay. And when you talk about your brother, is this your brother Dex?
James Dexter Egan. We call him Dex.
Okay. I want to I want to touch on one last subject from 2012, and that's when you first got to visit your son after July 20th. Do you recall visiting him?
In jail?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you recall when that was in relation to July 20th?
Yes. It was about August 12th.
Okay. Did he seem different to you at that time?
Completely different.
What was different?
He had trouble finding each and every word. Each word, it was chopped, like he couldn't just say a sentence. And he didn't look at us. He just looked down, and his hair was red, and of course he was in jail scrubs, not clothes, and his feet were shackled, and his eyes were kind of darting back and forth. They weren't like now he can look, he's looking at me. But in 2012 they were just not controllable. And not around his eyes, but his eyeballs were, well, the word bulging has been used, and I can't think of a better word. They were bulging.
Like a physical difference?
Physically different and unable to communicate in the same way as usual.
Was he still able to understand your conversation?
He did.
But he just had difficulty finding the words?
Yes, he wasn't talking gibberish, but it took forever to get each word out and put it into a sentence.
I want to really change gears now, okay?
Thank you.
I want to talk about a little bit about your background and where you grew up.
Okay.
Where did you grow up?
In Los Angeles, California.
Okay. Is that where you were born?
Yes, 1954. I'm 61.
What are you are you working now still?
I am working. My employer has placed me on hold until I come home.
What is your profession?
I'm a nurse, and my current position is a case manager and discharge planner.
How long have you been a nurse?
I got my RN in 1974, but I haven't worked that entire time as a nurse. I took time off to be with the kids and do other things. I got a bachelor's in English.
Where did you get your bachelor's from?
UC Berkeley.
Is that where you met your husband?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What appeals to you about your job as a nurse?
I mostly work with the elderly, and a discharge planner, the main thing is to give people a safe discharge so they're not going out into the community and going to an unsafe situation, home alone or out on the street or without equipment. So I find that very satisfying to set that up for them.
Would you say you had much mental health training as a nurse?
minuscule. I graduated in 1974, and I trained at a VA, and it would be maybe 1 to 2, definitely 1, but maybe 2 days a week in the psych hospital at the VA. And back then, people mostly were very medicated and sat in the day room staring at the TV. And that's 1974.
Do you wish you had had a lot more training as a nurse in mental illness?
I do.
Sustained.
You said you met your husband, you call him Bob, right? He goes by Bob?
Bob.
At UC Berkeley. Do you remember when that was?
What year?
Yeah.
I went there 1980, and I met him in 1980 in a tennis class. My tennis ball was stuck in the chain link fence, and he helped me grab it.
How soon after you met did you all get married?
1985, August 10th. So we'll be married 30 years in August.
How soon after, did you immediately know that you wanted to have children?
With Bob?
Yeah. When you guys got married, did you decide?
Oh, when I was married, yes. Yes.
Not from birth, not at birth, right? With your husband, how soon was it after you got married that you had your first child?
2 years. We got married in 85, and Jim was born in 87.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about how you felt. How did you feel when you first found out that you were pregnant?
Oh, it was,
Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
How did you feel when your son was born?
it was exciting. He was planned for and wanted and waited for and hoped for, and he was just this miracle that we wanted a child and we had one.
Was he a sort of the first even grandchild in the family?
Yes, on both sides.
And we saw his birth announcement yesterday. His birthday was again?
December 13th.
And was he a loved child even before he came into this world?
Yes.
And if I can approach, Your Honor, with D-TR-103, 104, 105, and 107.
You may.
Your Honor, I have no objection to these photographs.
All right, thank you. Without objection, then D-TR-103, 104, 105, and 107 are admitted and may be published.
Would you, and if we can get 103, which is 979, would you say that, is this a picture of Jimmy?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the, is that a special toy that he had?
Yes, he's 3 months old, and that's his bunny.
Would you say that he, in general, was a happy baby?
Yes, generally. He had some ear infections and a little short period of colic, but when those were clear, he was such a happy baby. I'd take him out in a stroller and people would say, "You're lucky. You're lucky."
And if we can see 104, which is 976. So tell the jury about this picture.
He would be about 9 months old. And we sent out Christmas cards that had our new address when we moved to a little bigger house in anticipation of having a second child.
Was that when you moved to the Prairie Dog neighborhood?
Yes, it was. Our first house was in San Diego, the first house we owned, and Prairie Dog was the second house we owned.
Can we get 105, please? 973. Were you and your husband happy with having a baby in the home?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I asked for extra time off from work, and we did without my income so that we could be with him more. And it was just, it was what we had prayed for.
We can get 107. And we saw a number of, which is 1036. We saw a number of baby pictures yesterday as well. Is this another picture of your son?
Yes, I can't tell you exactly what age he is here, but I'm guessing he was under 1.
Did you take a lot of pictures of him?
So many. We have so many books of him, and back then there was no digital, so they were just pictures.
Now, I'm going to, if I can approach with D-TR-108.
Yes.
I have no objection to this exhibit.
All right, without objection, D-TR-108 is admitted and may be published.
Thank you. Do you recognize what that is, Mrs. Holmes?
Yes, it is. It's some people would call it a baby book or a baby calendar. It's just each day for the first year of his life, each of his milestones.
Did you write in that calendar every single day that year?
Every day.
What kinds of things did you note in there?
Well, the milestones of babyhood, when he walked at 10 months, when he rolled over, when he sat up, when he walked, when he ate solids, when he was weaned off breastfeeding, how he got along with the dog, how he would try and get rid of his vegetables by feeding them to the dog. It's just the things mothers write about babies.
Did you note in there where, like, your mother would come to visit or your brother would come to visit?
Yes.
Would you say that people in the family were pretty excited about having this child?
Yes, my mom especially. She was just thrilled to be a grandma.
Okay.
Yes.
And if I can approach with D-TR-381.
Yes.
Sorry. And this is a disc that you've had the opportunity to look at, is that right?
Yes.
And you see that by your initials and date on there?
Yes.
Your Honor, we would move for admission of D-TR-381.
No objection.
All right, without objection, it is admitted and it may be published.
Here's little Jim, just going right after the drawers, the pots and pans. Jim, applaud yourself. When you're talking, try not to look cool. You're a good boy. Yeah. Well, he's gonna go see Dad. Gotta go throw up on Dad's knee. All right. Okay. Hey, Dad. Yeah, you're doing good.
Good boy. Darling, oh, that was a good boy. Breaking it in, I know that.
Oh, he looks like he's enjoying it.
Mom's just young little Jimmy. Finally running down and getting tired. He's sitting on her lap, listening to the melody music.
The record should reflect that the defense just finished publishing D-TR-381.
Can you tell the jury who some of those people that they heard and saw in that video were?
My brother Dex,
You heard him talking?
Yes, my mom and dad and Bob and I and Jimmy, and that's all the ones that I remember their voices.
Okay. Where was that?
At my brother's home.
Okay. Could you kind of tell that he's this firstborn child in the family?
Yes, if everyone is applauding him opening a cupboard door, yeah.
All right. What kinds of things did you really like to do with your son when he was young?
A baby or just in general?
Sort of in those younger years, 1 through 3 sort of time frame.
There was a nice park near us, Twin Trails Park, and we take him to the swings and take him out in his stroller in the neighborhood. And as he got a little older, maybe 4 years old, we played soccer with him. He started playing soccer right away and took to that right away.
Did you like to read to him?
Yes, yeah, a lot, every day.
What were his favorite books?
There's one about slow and steady wins the race with Goofy and his jalopy.
Did he also like the Goosebumps series?
Yeah, that was when he was old enough to read by himself.
Okay.
That's all the kids were reading, Goosebumps.
If I can approach with D-TR-109, 110, 111, 112, and 113.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no objection to these.
All right, without objection, D-TR-109 through 113 inclusive are admitted and may be published.
Now, was he, how would you describe him as a kid? Was he an organized kid?
Yes, more than above average with organization.
Was that even from a very young age?
Yes, his toys, his books, everything were lined up.
Did he put his Goosebumps books in a particular order?
In order of acquisition.
And how old was he then?
Goosebumps would be about 9.
Okay. Was he a kid that wanted to please everyone?
Yes.
If we can get D-TR-109, 1041. And he's a little bit older here.
Yeah, I'm guessing 5 or 6.
Okay. And 110, 1021. And what's he holding there?
His blanket, a blankie.
What, can you tell us about this blanket that he had? Did he carry it around with him everywhere he went?
Yeah, it got pretty ratty. This is the same one that was in the baby picture.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, eventually, we just cut a square of it off and stuffed it in his drawer so that someday we would give it to him and laugh.
When he started school, even in kindergarten, did he ever complain about going to school?
Never. I never had any problem with that.
Okay. Did you try to stay involved with him in his school over the years?
Yes, I volunteered, and we'd always go to parent-teacher conference, and if there was some event like a carnival that we could help with, and it was on a Saturday, then we would do that.
Did you keep some of his schoolwork?
Yeah, I kept a whole big book. I have a lot of his schoolwork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can we see D-TR-111, 2579? Is this one of the things that you kept?
Yes, 1997 he would be in second, third grade.
Can you read that to the jury?
My family. My family is nice. My family is really helpful to me. I love my family a lot.
Can we get D-TR-112, 479? Do you recall this, what this is? You have it there if you want to flip through it.
Yeah, I think Mrs. Heston that came to court assigned this. And it was to get the kids to write a longer essay.
And he chose to write about you.
I honestly don't remember whether he was assigned to
To write
write
about
about
you?
his mom or whether he chose it.
Did he interview you for this?
He did.
It's hard for us to see, but on that front page, is this entitled About Arlene?
Yes.
Okay. And can we get D-TR-113? Now this was, that's 483, yeah. This was another project you did with him, how to make a pizza?
Yes. This was Mr. Carr's class. Mr.
And-
Carr that came here.
Is that something that you helped him with?
Yeah, it was something he needed some help with, even in 5th grade, to get it in the oven, and then we took it over to school and served it to all the kids. And the assignment was, you need to do a how-to.
And if I can approach with D-TR-394.
I have no objection.
All right, without objection, that's D-TR-394 is admitted and may be published.
Do you remember his Holmes family book?
Yeah,
Or Bach, as you...
Bach, yeah, he wrote 1995. Yeah,
Can you read through this to the jury? It's very short.
it is short. It's, I'm Jimmy Holmes, and I don't know what that says. He's still learning to write in 1995. He was 7 and 8 years old. So I don't know that word. My mom and sister are San Diego on, I don't know that word either. He's pretty young. He's describing the pictures that are in the book. This is my backyard. I think that's backyard. It's spelled B-C-U-E-D. I like my
What are the-
T-E-R-B-O-L. I don't know.
What are the photos of?
His little car. He has one of those little Tykes cars. And then it's his dogs. My dogs are Zuby and Wimby. We had a Labrador and a Sheltie. And this is my sister. I like to give her a hug. I like to ride in this car. So it's his little Tykes car again. This is my sister in the car. This is where we like to eat. It's the dining room. This is my TV in the family room, and it's my room something. And then this is our house in Salinas. So it's right when he first moved to Salinas.
I want to talk to you a little bit about some of those moves that you made. The jury has heard a lot of people testify about the Oak Hills neighborhood.
Yes.
We heard from Sandy Becker from the Prairie Dog neighborhood. So I'd like to kind of just run through that timeline, not too quickly, but not too lengthy, from your perspective, okay?
Okay.
With regard to the Prairie Dog neighborhood, can you describe that neighborhood from your perspective for the jury?
Very extroverted, very busy, lots and lots of kids. I couldn't even tell you how many. Everybody had kids. And so there was always things going on in the street and lots of things to play with and barbecues. And if you needed help, there was someone to go to.
Okay. And was that a neighborhood that you and Bob were involved in with the neighbors and the kids and?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
You couldn't not be involved.
Okay. Did you enjoy that type of neighborhood? Did you think it was good for your kid?
Yes.
Okay. And was Chrissy born when you moved there?
Not when we moved there. She was born in 1992.
while you lived there?
Well, we lived there.
And if I can approach with D-TR-119.
And I have no
Yes.
objection, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, D-TR-119 is admitted and may be published.
And if we can publish 119, 235, and 236 all together, those were introduced previously through Sandy Becker, and that would be 3271. 3274. So you saw the photo on the left and the photo on the bottom when Sandy Becker was here to testify?
Yes.
Okay, and the one that you just looked at that we just introduced is on the upper right. Are all these kind of representative of activities in the Prairie Dog neighborhood?
Yes. The one on the left is they're playing Red Rover with Gary Becker. And the upper right is we used to have Easter egg hunts for the kids. So there was so many kids, we'd keep them in the garage until they went out back to look for the eggs. And then down below is some of the neighborhood kids. One has a Etch-a-Sketch, and they must be watching TV because I don't see any controllers, so they're not playing video games.
Fair to say that video games are something popular in the time that Jim and Chrissy were growing up?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever have any concerns about your son when he was in this neighborhood socially or developmentally or anything?
No.
Okay. Now, after you lived here, you said you moved in 1995?
1995 to Salinas.
Okay. And we've heard about that neighborhood, that it was very similar to Prairie Dog. Is that fair?
Lots of kids. The difference was that they were all boys except for Chris.
Now, when you were in Salinas, Oak Hills, Castroville, all same area, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Yes.
yes? Thanks. At some point, you decided to go to counseling at a Salinas counseling place. Is that right?
Family Services of Monterey.
Okay. Why was it that you decided to do that?
They put an ad in the paper that they had a character building program, and it said that it fosters good family relationships and trust and responsibility, and I thought, oh, who wouldn't want that? So we went, and
When you say we, who is we?
Bob was at work, and I worked only part-time, so I took Chris and Jim and myself, and we went 3 or 4 times.
Now, was that was around January through April of 1996?
I can't remember the exact year, but it was in Salinas, so it was probably 96, 97.
But fairly soon after you moved there?
Yeah, a year maybe.
Okay. When you went in for the first visit with your son and your daughter, tell me how that first visit went.
Well, Chris did all the talking, but she always does. We're a pretty quiet family, and there was a social worker. His name was John, and we waited in the waiting room a really long time, so we didn't spend a full hour with him, and he just asked about our family.
Do you recall him asking about your son specifically?
Yes, because Jim doesn't talk a lot. He wanted to know, if I had concerns about that, and I said, yeah, I think it would be good for him to talk more.
Okay. Did you have any concerns about him not making as many friends in the neighborhood yet?
Well, we came from a neighborhood that there was just a kid everywhere you turned, and it wasn't quite as many kids, and it would be impossible to have as many kids as there was on that street. So when we moved to Salinas, there were still a lot of kids, but Jim was still finding his feet, and I am not a fan of video games. I think that it's better if the kids are doing just out and getting exercise and in nature, and
Not a fan of TV either.
I would prefer they're out playing.
Okay. So was that something that you also mentioned there at the counseling?
That I don't want him to be too many hours playing video games.
I mean, up until this point, your son was a good child, but are you saying that he was like a perfect kid? He never threw a toy or never got upset or never...
No.
Was there anything about his behavior as a child that you thought was alarming at that point in time?
Alarming. No.
Nothing more than you might expect from every child growing up.
Right.
Okay. Do you recall the second visit that you had there at in Castroville? Or, well, let me ask you this: do you recall what the goals were that you set with the counselor? Increased cooperation, increased socialization.
Right.
Okay.
And I wanted the kids to be kind to each other and to everyone. That was important.
Were you worried that they weren't being that way?
I was worried in today's world that outside influences might not be good, and it was an important thing to me.
Okay.
And this was advertised as character building.
Okay. So it wasn't that you saw something specific with your children, rather you saw this opportunity in the advertisement.
Yes.
Okay. When you went back on the second visit, the counselor told you that there was improvement already. And that was like 3 weeks later, is that right? Do you recall that?
He'd always say, "Oh, just come back in 3 weeks." Kind of cavalier voice. And so we did. We came back in 3 weeks. And we're talking like 1996, so I can't recall
Every moment.
what exactly he said, but I know he did ask for the kids to draw pictures
Okay.
of their home. I don't remember what they look like. He didn't give them to us. He kept them.
Do you recall your son being more talkative already in that visit with him?
Yeah, I think he was a little less worried about what are we doing here with this strange man. Yeah,
And then the third visit was, what, again, 3 weeks later?
3 weeks.
Okay. And at that point in time, did you feel that your husband came with you at that point, right?
He came once. I don't know which visit.
Okay. Did the counselor talk to you and your husband about some techniques with parenting?
He did.
Okay. And by that third visit, did you all agree that the goals had been met and you didn't feel the need to come back anymore?
I don't know if the goals are ever met.
Okay. Fair. Can you explain to the jury a little bit more what you mean by that?
Well, people say to me that when your kid turns 18, you're done. And it's not true. We're not done. We're never done, and that's why we're sitting here. We're not done.
When you had your son, was it your plan to love him for his whole life,
Yes,
regardless?
yes, regardless. Regardless.
When you decided not to continue any more counseling there after 3 visits,
Yes.
why was that?
I just didn't see that anything was to be had from going there. It was 20 miles away. It was pouring rain every time. It was expensive. And I thought we'd be better off just being at home gardening.
You didn't get that much when you went there?
No.
Okay. You said they made you wait for a long time before your first visit. Did they do that the second and third visits as well?
Every time. And I spoke up and I said, well, we're paying out of pocket. It's for an hour. We should sit with you for an hour. But he said I have to go on to the next person.
That time in Castroville, you said your son, when you initially moved there, was trying to get his feet underneath him. How did he progress with the kids in the neighborhood and with school while he was in Castroville?
Oh, good. He was part of a group of kids that played a lot together, and they rode bikes. They dug bike jumps because it was rural. They had fights in the strawberry fields with strawberries. They had a tree house. They had a fort. They played tag at night with flashlights in the backyard. They got along well.
Did you see that he found his footing?
Yes.
Okay. We've heard a lot about this group of boys in the neighborhood. We've heard from Joe Barrett, one of those boys, and from a lot of family members that lived in that neighborhood. I just want to show you a couple pictures. I don't want to review every photo. If I can approach with D-TR-126, 127, and 129.
Yes.
Your Honor, I don't have any objection to these photographs.
All right, thank you. Without objection from the people, D-TR-126, 127, and 129 are admitted and may be published.
If we can have, actually, can we start with D-TR-255 that was previously admitted, which is 985? We just saw this a little bit earlier today. Do you recall what this is?
This is their book sale. They took the books they'd already read, and it's like having a lemonade stand.
Okay. You see your daughter in this photo?
Yes, she's hugging Jimmy from behind.
Is that fairly representative of their relationship during that period of time?
Most of the time, there was like 14 boys there, and she wanted to play with them, and sometimes they'd just be like, get her out of here. Sometimes.
Right. And the 2 other boys there, are those neighbors from the neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay. Good
Brothers.
friends? Friends of Jimmy's?
Yes.
Okay. And if we can get 126, which is 1073, and this is one of those boys as well, right?
Yes, they were brothers, Chris and David Chun, and they took, after we'd known them a couple years, they took Jimmy on a camping trip to the beach with them.
Okay. And 127, which is 982?
Yeah.
Same camping trip they went on?
Yeah, lime kiln. It's a kind of, you can see it's a more unspoiled beach because the sand's nice and clean and all, and they went camping.
Okay. And if we can get a previously admitted exhibit D-TR-129, which is 989. So is this pretty, what is this, what's happening in this picture?
They're just all goofing at our house. The Barrett boys and the Chun brothers and Jim and another kid, Michael, that lived there. They're just playing around.
Did they do this every day?
Every single day, because they all took the bus home from school, and some of the mothers didn't work. So
If I can approach with D-TR-382.
Yes.
And you've watched this disc as well?
Yes.
Your initials are on that?
That's my initials.
We do move for admission of D-TR-382. And this is just a short clip of some of his friends in that neighborhood. Is that right? Do you remember?
It says friends on it, so I'm
Roll with
assuming.
that? Okay. Can we please play that,
Oh, hold on,
2578?
I haven't ruled on it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Without objection, D-TR-382 is admitted and may be published now. Go ahead.
Thank you.
He's pointing at you a lot, like he has his finger like that, it's not at what, you see?
It is, oh, cool. Let's see it. Yeah, hold it up.
Hey, Jim. Hey, thank you.
Cool.
And dogs, thank you.
Jim. Let's see it. Oh, hey, cool.
Right there. Wow.
The shot, upside down.
The color above the red.
There he is.
Yeah. Wow, way up there.
For me! No, give it to me. Give it to me. Leave it there! No, leave it. Okay, Michael.
There they are. That was Jimmy and Ryan doing their volcano with baking soda and vinegar and red food coloring.
You're coloring.
It is July 4th, 1998.
Red, white, and blue ice on a Monterey cold day.
And here's Sue at the snow cone booth. Her customers are getting her red, white, blue ice.
The record should reflect that the defense just played D-TR-382. You may proceed.
Thank you. Did you have any concerns during that time period with regard to your son and his behavior, his development?
During the time we were at Oak Hills?
Yeah.
Only the things at the Family Service Center that I said that I want a good culture and upbringing and want he and his sister to be nurturing and sharing, and it wasn't so much specific to Jim, but in general I saw the video game culture approaching.
So this was generally things that were important to you with regard to how you raise your kids?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you left Oak Hills, that was what year?
What year? We were there 5 years, 95 to 2000, June of 2000.
And that would have been your son's sixth grade year?
Yes.
Now, how old would he have been in sixth grade?
He was born in 87, so December of 87, so he was 12 when we moved.
During that year of sixth grade, did you notice something change in your son?
Yes.
Can you kind of describe that for the jury?
He would stay inside more. He was, some people call it living on a blue note sort of a thing, where you're just not so exuberantly joyful. He was subdued.
Was this a change that occurred one day or kind of over the course of that year?
Gradually.
Okay. Did it start before you moved to San Diego?
Yes, it really coincided with puberty.
Okay. If I can approach with D-TR-133.
Yes.
And we do move for its introduction.
Without objection, D-TR-133 is admitted and may be published.
Thank you. If we could publish that. Is this a photo where you see that change in him?
Yes. He just, the joy went down.
Okay. Did you know what that was due to?
I thought it was puberty, that he was kind of working his way through puberty and that grouchiness was part of the parcel.
If we can get a group of photos that have already been introduced, which is D-TR-327, 326, and 328, which would be in 3271. Do these photos also kind of show that?
Yes, they do.
And what time frame are the two photos on the left?
Salinas, so it's prior to the year 2000 on the left. And then on the right is, he'd be maybe 13. That's the Christmas tree. And so that's like 2000.
So kind of late 1999 in Salinas through the spring. The Easter photo that we just saw was in the spring of 2000 before you moved?
Correct.
And then you still saw it after you moved, is that right?
Correct.
Was he happy about the move?
No.
Was Chris happy about the move?
Well, Chris is pretty easygoing, so she was like, you can swim more often, the weather's great, we built up the good points, and so she was fine.
Was she sad when she left her best friend, the Bidwell son?
Yes, and she had another good friend, Holly Price's daughter, Savannah, that she was very sad about leaving the kids.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, did you ever attribute part of it as a possibility that part of James's loss of joy could have also been part of your move? Was that a concern for you?
Yes, a big concern.
Okay. What did you do as a result of that when you guys moved to San Diego and you continued to see this with him?
We contacted our insurance for a referral to a counselor to help get some counseling for adjustment for a whole family to this move, but in particular we were worried about Jim being happy, and especially because the kids in the neighborhood were not welcoming.
Before you sought out the counseling, I understand the counseling began in James's 8th grade year? 8th to 9th grade?
I believe it might be 7th grade.
Okay. Did you make any efforts to try to get him to make friends in the neighborhood?
Yes. I went door to door introducing myself, that we were new in the neighborhood, and there was someone from church had a kid his age that I asked the mom if he could come down to see Jim. And there was a mom I knew from when we were in San Diego before, and I called from the Prairie Dog neighborhood. But the kids were now in a different phase of their life, and they were really highly scheduled.
Was he able to make friends in San Diego easily?
Not as a result of my effort.
Okay. Eventually he did make some friends through school.
At school they had like a rec room with ping pong, and he would go there to play ping pong. So I was happy about that because A, I had nothing to do with it. He did that all by himself, and B, that's pretty good initiative that he did that on his own to make some friends.
You talked about getting a referral for a counselor. Was that Mel Lipsy?
Yes.
And how long did you all go see him?
Probably over the course of 1 year.
Why did you stop going? Did you think the counseling had done anything, had solved the problem? What was your reasoning?
I saw better adjustment, and after the course of a year, we were just all kind of going there, didn't have more to say.
Did he ever ask to speak to your son alone?
Never.
What was the positive change that you began to see, and when did you begin to see that?
Well, he was playing soccer, and he loved that. And every Friday night, he went to a comic store where they sponsored Magic. It's a card game. So he had everybody, it was like cheers. Everybody was greeting him as he walked in the door. And he was doing well in playing the trumpet. Knew some people that were in band. So yeah, I saw some getting integrated into his new situation.
Did you see things get even better by the time he got into like his sophomore and junior and senior years of high school?
Well, transitions are tough for Jim. Going to a new place or a new school, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of the time, he chooses his own activities, but we kind of push him into cross country because the coach had stuff over the summer, and so I thought that would keep him busy practicing and running over the summer, and then do cross country in 9th grade.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't his choice. He didn't want to, but he wanted to make us happy. So he did it, but he was not happy there, really not happy, and I could certainly see that. One time I went to pick him up, and they were pairing up groups, and he was just kind of staring off into space.
Did he become more busy and focused on school the more he got into high school?
Yeah, Westview is a very hard school. The expectations are that you buckle down and do hours and hours of homework.
Did he seem to get better? These concerns you had about his sort of loss of joy, his social isolation, did that seem to get better?
It did.
Did it ever go back to how it was in Oak Hills?
No.
Okay. During this period of time, did you have, whenever you had parties or he was around groups of people, did you try to give him tasks to focus on?
Well, not just this period of time, but always.
Okay.
Like when we had Easter egg hunts, he would be the one to pass out the baskets or the bags. When we had a Christmas party, we would have him host the one to pour the hot apple cider. When my mom died, he was the one that greeted the people at the funeral mass and handed them the book to sign. So I think I read somewhere that shy people, if you give them a task, it kind of eases any kind of discomfort when there's a lot of people around.
Did you, was that effective with your son?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Throughout this period of time when you moved to San Diego, when you moved from Oak Hills, moved to San Diego, you had concerns about his isolation, you had concerns about his loss of joy. Did he ever have any problems in school?
Certainly not academically,
Mm-hmm.
and never getting in trouble. The only time I ever, in 13 years of school, had a teacher or a worker talk to me about him was he and another kid in after-school program. There used to be, I don't even know if kids use them anymore, but there used to be a little plastic army men about that big, and they were getting bored and they were throwing them through the chain link fence at the cars. And so the teacher told me, that he was in trouble. And he said, well, why is that bad? And I said, well, the drivers get distracted. So he said, okay, I won't do that again. And in 13 years, that's the only time anybody from any school ever talked to me about Jim.
Was the fact that he wasn't he wasn't also the kind of kid that was staying out late, getting into trouble at home?
No.
And I know that you said there came a point between your son and your daughter where they didn't want to hang out that much anymore. By this point in high school, are they sort of into their separate interests and getting along okay?
Right.
The fact that he's not getting in trouble, that he's doing well in school, he's always getting good grades, did this sort of balance against any concerns you had about being isolated or losing his joy?
I think that's true. I always thought I had a good kid.
So even with the concerns that you did have, do you think it was anything at the time out of the ordinary, that maybe other families had their issues with their kids, that it was along the same lines?
I wouldn't say it was out of the ordinary. I just would say I felt guilty that he wasn't happier. And I know happiness is up to the person, but I'm his mom. So I felt like there was something more I could do.
So you always continue to try?
If I cook better, if I make a better vacation plan, if I do something, it will make happiness.
For both of your kids?
For all of us.
Right. I want to talk to you. You mentioned before that you had some pets, that Jimmy put a picture of his pets in one of his family books. And I want to show you a couple things with regard to that, and that's D-TR-137, 38, 140, 139, and 142.
I don't have any objection to these exhibits, Your Honor.
Thank you. I do move for their admission.
All right, D-TR-137, 138, 139, 140, and 142 are admitted and may be published.
Why was it important for you to have pets in your home?
Well, they're fun to have around. They do bring happiness, and I think there's something to the studies that show that they keep people calmer. And it's good for teaching responsibility to look after pets. Kids need to have that.
What is, can we publish 137 and 138? Or, well, we have to do one at a time. 137. Is this a picture that you actually sent to your son since he's been in custody?
Yes.
You write him a lot of letters, don't you?
Yes.
What is this a picture of?
This is Wimby. He's a Sheltie, and he was the runt of the litter. Nobody wanted him, and they were going to euthanize him. So we took him, and he was actually a difficult dog because he had a lot of health problems, and being a Sheltie, he's a herder, and he barks a lot, and then the neighbors get mad, but we did the best we could with him.
And if we can have the next one.
This is Exuberant. We call him Zoopy, and he was a canine companion. It's a program where you adopt a puppy and raise it for a disabled person and train it and socialize it. But he had bad hips, so he was unable to go to a handicapped person, so we kept him.
How did your son get along with the dogs?
Oh, good. Yeah, he was always good with animals. He walked them and bathed them and liked to pet them and cuddle them. He was good.
You can we see D-TR-139, 1080? And this is both of those dogs again, but together in the same photo?
Yes,
Zuby and Wimby?
yes.
Do you recognize this from your son's, from, if you open up D-TR-142, which is the book, the journal?
Oh, the journal. Okay. Yes, the picture's in here.
Yeah. Can you read that second entry from the journal?
This is from 12/18/98. Today my dog died. His name was Zuby. He was born 1986. Zuby died at the age of 12. He died of old age. He has white fur. He used to chase tennis balls. He was a retriever. Zuby was a good dog. Zuby and my other dog, Wimpy, were best friends. They knew each other for 9 years. I like Zuby, and I think he was a great dog and retriever. Zuby and Wimpy Zuby and Wimpy are both wonderful dogs to me. This is a picture of them together.
Do you recall when Zuby died?
In Salinas, he had bad hips to begin with. That's why we got him. So we had to, these big dogs, it gets worse. And when he was about 13, we had to euthanize him.
Do you recall ever talking to your son at length about that?
We didn't talk about euthanizing. We just told both the kids that he was getting old and couldn't walk anymore and couldn't eat anymore and couldn't do anything anymore, and to say goodbye to him because he was going to die probably the next day. And they were so young, and they didn't say, "How do you know it's tomorrow?" We didn't tell them we euthanized.
Was your son sad when that happened?
Yes.
Is it something that he talked to you about, his sadness?
The neighbor came down, Sue. She was in that picture that making snow cones.
Mm-hmm.
She came down and gave the kids a card and some flowers to put on his grave, and they talked to her.
Let me ask you this. Historically in your family, is the culture of your family to talk much about emotion?
No, we don't talk much in general. We're all introverted. Chris is the chattiest.
Okay.
But emotions, not very much. When we get together, we're more doing things, like we'll get together and hike, or we'll get together and kayak, but to just sit and talk, that probably isn't my family culture.
Okay. Is it part of your family culture to kind of be more stoic? Is that a word that you would use?
Yes, definitely.
How else would you describe that family culture?
Well, it goes back one more generation that I was taught to be stoic, don't complain, be grateful, help other people, don't be weak, be responsible, be strong, and that was the same I handed down.
Do you think that had an impact on how communicative you guys were as a family with regard to some of the difficult things?
Yes.
For example, we've heard some testimony from your daughter about your husband's sister, Aunt Betty.
Yes.
And that you all didn't really know about or talk about her mental illness.
We didn't, partly because we would see her at holidays, and if you're all having a good time with your Thanksgiving turkey, you don't really start talking about mental illness.
Right. But was it also a little bit more than that it just wasn't something talked about in your family?
Right. We did not. At one point I knew she was very anxious and that impaired her from working. And I asked Bob's mom point blank, what is wrong with her? Because if something happens to you, I need to help look after her. And Bob's mom said, I don't know, but she knew.
When you say that Bob's mom wouldn't talk about it, you heard your husband talk yesterday about it wasn't really the culture of their family to talk about these things. Was it the same with the Egan family, your family, growing up?
The same culture. Be grateful. Don't be a complainer. Be strong. You're here on this earth to help weaker people, so you need to be strong.
So if you're sick, don't complain about it.
Don't complain about anything.
Just get better.
Just put one foot in front of the other.
Okay. Do you think that culture that came from your side of the family also came into your family with your children?
Yes.
Okay. I want to just touch briefly on some of Jimmy's relatives. You said your mother and father were very happy at his birth?
Ms. Hicks, I'm sorry, before we move on,
Certainly.
let's go ahead and take our afternoon break,
Okay.
okay? All right, members of the jury, it's time for a break, so let's take the afternoon break right now. Take 20 minutes. Please make sure you follow all my advisements during the break, and I'll see you back here in 20. Thank you. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom. Let's take our break, and I'll see everyone back here in 20 minutes, all right? The court will be in recess.